So look, price action's been good since I saw you last, man. It's been frothy and
Yeah,
feeling good.
I think there's a lot of factors at play. Obviously, the ETF as a narrative potential catalyst is, I think, probably the main one. But you also have interesting shifts in the macro environment. I think like U.S. data is softening a bit. So is global data. And, the Fed last week, in their most recent FOMC, they basically are really hinting now that rates do not have to go up higher. So like they will probably stay, they're insisting that they'll stay higher for longer. But point being is if you have an ETF catalyst that's an inflow driver, right? Like there's an accessibility issue that occurs, which could cause inflows, right? It's not just a news event; it's one that could drive inflows. Then you got the halving also in April, right? Which is probably right around my guess as to when ETFs will really start showing inflows. It's going to take a couple months, regardless of when they're approved. Like they probably take a little while to like get going. Like the businesses and the advisors got to like look into it and figure it out. And then you've got maybe a softening rate environment that could be conducive for risk assets in general. Like I think the picture looks pretty good for Bitcoin price over the next 6 to 9 months for sure.
Heading into an election.
People have asked me this, like, did Satoshi make the 4-year halving cycle right around? Because every halving comes 6 months before ish.
I know.
It's always quite interesting.
Yeah. So somebody sent me that once, and they said everyone thinks that the halving is what drives the price action. They said actually no, it's the election, because in an election year, there's a loosening of economic policy.
Typically, yeah. And no, there's plenty. I think if you look at rates also, there's a lot of correlation between the rates markets and Bitcoin price. I don't think the halving, and certainly now, I mean, the halving on an absolute basis is a pretty small supply reduction, right? I mean, theoretically, the average is what, like 900 coins or whatever from new issuance, and it goes down to 450 after the halving per day. That's a tiny portion of daily traded Bitcoin volume, even in this low liquidity environment that the market is in. But I think to me, it's more about the narrative event, right? Like if you had last time, the halving occurred right as the Fed was lifting off with the biggest money printing bonanza in human history. Like that juxtaposition is iconic, right? It's so easy to tell the story. I think of it more as a quadrennial marketing event for Bitcoin at this point.
Look, I'll take it. If every 4 years the price goes up, I know I have to sit on my hand for 3 years. Survive.
It's just a very scarce asset. It truly is, right? I mean, they're not making a lot more of it. And soon, I mean, in practical terms, like they are going to be done making new Bitcoin like in 5 years. I mean, like I think we'll hit 99% of the supply in just a couple years, right? So like really there's not a lot left. And, that causes volatility because the supply is totally inelastic, right? If everybody decides like they did in 2017 or in 2021 that they want Bitcoin now, like that's a huge influx of demand. But miners can't produce more of it to meet that demand, right? So that inelastic supply is why it's volatile. Like demand causes volatility because there's no, even gold, which is, famously scarce, like if there's a sustained long-term increase in bids for gold, miners will mine more gold. Like it's slower. It's not like we can produce more widgets, right, more quickly. It doesn't scale like software, for example, or anything. But so it is scarce, but it's not perfectly inelastic, right? Like their miners will scale up or scale down in gold. They can't in Bitcoin. No amount of hash rate can really, dominate or fundamentally change the supply schedule. And so like that, so I agree. I mean, look, we don't know where price goes, but I know that there's not going to be a lot of it. And I believe pretty firmly that over time, demand for Bitcoin will continue to rise. So like that dynamic is pretty straightforward in my mind.
Well, I'm going to speak for Danny because he's not here. Danny has never been so bullish.
Right now, you mean? Than he is now?
Yeah.
So this is a Danny signal right now.
He sleeps bullish. In his dream, Bitcoin's going up right now. He's sat there thinking about it. But we're having a conversation this week because there's this building that's become available. Well, I know that's available to buy in Bedford, right? And it's got this like prime real estate front window that wraps around 2 streets. And right now, a Vegas slots company is trying to get it, right? And we've had a death of our high streets. I don't know if it's the same in America, but these traditional shopping high streets have been dying. People don't go there and buy clothes anymore, so you tend to get a lot of betting shops. I don't know if betting shops are a big thing in the US, but
Not really. I think
shops.
online here is bigger. But so you're talking about like a casino is going to be put in
No,
there?
no, it's like betting slips, so sports, mainly sports betting. So you'll get people that'll go in there and they'll be watching horse racing or sports, and
Do
when
they
they're
serve
watching
food
it,
and drinks too?
no, it's like pretty
Sounds
degenerate.
a pretty bleak place. Like
no, they are. They are
a bunch of
bleak
gambling
places.
addicts sitting around watching sports and and not even any food or drinks.
No, I don't think so. And they just go in and bet. And so we get a lot of those. We get charity shops and a few other things. But like these high streets have died and the quality of the shops has gone down. But this one, like, it's the best shop front in my hometown. Like I say, it wraps two of the most important streets. And this thing called Vegas slots applied for it, which is it's like that is like a mini casino, but it's not really a casino. It's just we call them fruit machines, the slot machines you have.
Okay.
And it's just
because they have the fruit cherries and bananas or whatever. Yeah.
And so there's just those, and there's like 50 of them in there, and people go in there, they lose their money and leave, right? But they're not good, and they're trying to get it. And I was like, saying to Danny, I was like, I think I want to buy this place because, I'd like to be able to, I'd like to be able to like make it something else, like a nice cafe or something.
Yeah.
I was like, but it's not cheap because you got to buy the whole building. I was like, well, I'm probably gonna have to sell some Bitcoin to do it. He's like, dude, if you sell Bitcoin to do this now, you're an idiot.
I try never to sell Bitcoin. I've told this story before, but I sold a lot of Bitcoin years ago. I made money on a trade, but like it was before I really understood Bitcoin deeply, and I've tried never to sell it since then. If I did have to sell it or want to sell it, I would want to buy something that was real and hard, right? So for example, real estate. However, I'd also, if it's a building, I hope it's made out of stone or brick, Pete. It's not like vinyl siding, Yeah. So if it's a nice stone building, like, I mean, that's what we're talking. I mean, that's a hard asset. That's hard money, basically, like bricks, stone, marble, like something that can last.
Yeah. I mean, it is a proper building.
Sick.
Made with bricks.
No, I'm saying, not vinyl siding like American houses that are actually designed to degrade after a 30-year mortgage.
But it's a business as well. Like above the shop front, there's a number of flats that are fully rented out. So you could
lease them out to what? Is it all commercial?
They already are. They're already fully leased out, all of them. And
So good.
Yeah.
I do like cash flow generating businesses.
Exactly. And the cash flow of this pays the mortgage. So over 15 years, you end up owning the building. So it makes sense logically. But Danny's right. He's also like, you've got to sell X Bitcoin to cover the deposit.
Right now.
And if the price of Bitcoin triples, you could have bought the building for the same amount of Bitcoin.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, yeah, I know, but like it might not be available. I might miss out on it.
Yeah. Could take 15 more years or longer.
Yeah. I tell you why I sell Bitcoin. I sell Bitcoin to do special things like on a cool holiday or buy special gifts for people. Like I got my dad a car once, and knowing that the amount I spend comes off the bottom, and I would never have got to spend that amount anyway, ever. I would never have reached that amount.
Mm-hmm.
I sell some.
Yeah, I mean, I to be clear, I'm not like saying people should. I've seen people say that. I've seen some influential people say that you should hold until you die and never spend and give all your Bitcoin to your future generations. You certainly can do that, but I think risk management is a real thing as well, right? I mean, to be clear, if you need money and you have an asset and you need cash instead or something else instead, right? Then you should think about investing as a diversification and long-term success of you and your family, right? And your goals. So I'm certainly not someone who shames someone for spending Bitcoin. I'd rather sell something else before that. And I mean, that's what I would do, right? To the extent I can.
Well, Danny's like,
I'm so long-term bullish on Bitcoin, I just want my number to go up, my stack to go up.
He's like halving, election year, BlackRock ETF, macro cycle. He's like, this is the worst time ever in the history of Bitcoin to sell Bitcoin.
I do think it's but that's annoying. Buildings are. I mean, that building might not come up for sale. First of all, literally ever again in your lifetime, as possible.
Ever again,
or it could be like 20 years from now, right? You're like, damn, you just don't know.
I'll probably be dead.
Also, I like your thought though about keeping some, relatively throwing no shade on that business, but like keeping a relatively skeezy, shady kind of like annoying business that actually diminishes the quality of your downtown. That there is that aspect too.
Yeah, and then if I get it up in time for cheat code, we can take everyone there and they can have coffee.
Love it.
Pay with Bitcoin. All right.